Hello, everybody. It's Sean Ellis from Eternal X Wolfpack Paranormal. And tonight we have an amazing guest. She is an author for children's books, an illustrator, a co owner, a model, motion picture, a co owner at Spoon River Paranormal, and a published poet at the National Poet Anthem. She's a little bit of everything. So we will have Miss Jacki Bainter on here. So let's welcome Miss Bainter.
Oh,
Hello, Jacki. How are you been?
hi, for having me.
I'm gonna flash this down here at the bottom where they can find you and locate where you're at and stuff.
All this.
So the author of Spoon River Paranormal. So tell us a little bit about how you became an author.
So, I've written for most of my life. When I was a child, um, I let's see, I was in third grade and I entered into this young authors program via my school. So technically, I wrote my first book when I was in third grade, and I'm pretty sure that I got like a bronze ribbon or a third place ribbon on that one, but it's funny. I recently found that not too long ago, and my illustrations back then look very similar to the illustrations that I have now.
Well, sometimes practice makes perfect. If you work on it a little bit, anything's possible. I remember when I used to draw stick figures a long time ago. So, yeah, practice makes perfect.
But I've always been interested in writing, and the paranormal is something that I've always been interested in because I had an experience when I was young. So I think that's kind of how it starts for a lot of us. So the two just went hand in hand. I grew up in Fulton County, Illinois, which is kind of like the center of Illinois. And we have like a lot of rich Native American history there. And that was kind of pertaining to like my first paranormal experience. My grandparents lived near a Native American museum, and their house was actually built on like an old village. And so when I was a child, I had saw a full body apparition of a Native American chief in my grandparents' basement. And for a long time, like, I struggled to make sense of that, like, because I was a kid and I knew it happened, but adults kind of tell you like, oh, that's your imagination whenever you tell them things like that.
Right.
It wasn't until years later, through a lot of soul searching and speaking with psychics and shamans and mediums, that they had also helped me verify that my experience was real. So that was like one of the stories in the book. There are a lot of stories I've came across in my life living in that area, and a lot of the stories were really cool. And I just wanted to get other paranormal locations and stories out there into the world because there are a lot of really cool things that we just can't explain and that we don't understand. And if some people read my book and say, wow, I had a similar experience at that same exact place, then that might help validate or verify somebody else's story. So I thought that was really cool.
Very, very much true. So yours wasn't from a traumatic experience, was it?
No, no, I was just my grandparents had recently moved. It was right around the time they had bought the apple orchard. So like we were moving stuff, and they had like a playroom in the basement where they had like games and stuff stacked in there, like board games. So I just had went in the room to find some toys and look for some toys, and there he was. He was right there. And so he looked a lot like my grandfather. So I had went over there and was like, he was like talking to me in like another language I didn't understand, but he was very, very real, much like you and I. So, and then I remember running upstairs, like, who's the man in the basement? And yeah, so.
Hello, David Jarvis. He's from Smoky Mountain Tarot Wisdom.
Okay. Hello.
And so technically, maybe you you have ancestors or relatives from the past that are able to, or that are gifted that's passed on to you?
Yes, I very much am like an empath, and I feel sometimes I just know things, right? When you're clairsentient, you know things and you know things, and so I have that. I wouldn't say that I'm a medium though. I don't like speak with the dead. I don't talk to the dead. I can't, like I can't see a spirit in the room, but you can feel an energy shift and you can tell, like you can feel the change when a
Hmm.
spirit does enter the room. So I have that ability. But as far as like a medium, I wouldn't call myself that.
Hmm. Interesting. So when you feel the energy change in a room, how do I say this? Because to me, it feels like a shift, and you can definitely tell
Mm-hmm.
how things go because I'm actually classified as clairvoyant. Um, I also can actually see, but not a full apparition. That's how people would see it. To me, it looks like, you're looking down a hot asphalt road and see the heat come off of it.
Yeah.
You can see the difference in the energy in certain places, is how I see it.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily an apparition, but you can see the form, but not like the whole thing in detail. You can feel it's like standing there or whatever. And I've also had them actually touch my hand, and you can actually feel it when it's floating around, and it will guide your hand. I've had that happen to me on a few occasions. So that's definitely interesting. But I also know that every one of us is different on our abilities and what we can do and what we can't do. So that's kind of cool.
Right. I have like a shadow man before on a few different occasions, on a few different locations. One of them was at the Astoria Cemetery. There was a shadow man near like one of the mausoleums, like the mausoleum out by the road. Uh,
Hmm.
so I have a grandfather that's actually buried at the Astoria Cemetery. So that's why I would go out there to visit when my daughter was in dance class in Astoria. So there's a shadow man there. I didn't really go much. I didn't go back there much by myself anymore after that.
I mean, I know we previously talked in the past on the old podcast I used to co-host.
Yeah.
There was a cemetery that you were at. I believe that it was you that
Mhm.
you seen a portal open up, wasn't it?
Okay, so I didn't see the portal with my own eyes at the cemetery. I
Hmm.
took a picture, and in the picture there was like this giant spiral thing, like right above the like this tombstone. And I didn't realize it until after I had gone home because back we had those digital cameras back in the day where you
Right.
out the SIM card and stick it in the computer to really get a good look. So that's when I got it, and I had sent it to onto a paranormal group. I'm not sure who it was. It was so long ago, and I used to have a different page, and it's deleted now. So I lost a lot of information. It was also Spoon River Paranormal, but I got a lot of um people would write in and tell me stories of things that would happen to them in the area, and that also helped inspire me to write the book because there were a lot of good stories just in our area, and I feel like we have a rich I don't know, like something's going on in central Illinois where the feelings are a little spooky and the energy is real high or something. So
Hmm. I noticed since I started my team here in January, we've had quite a few here in Galesburg, Illinois, and we've had some private residences we've taken care of as well.
mhm.
Um,
Do you think that could be like from the rail system in Galesburg? Because I know railways like are a big conductor of energy, and anywhere where
oh,
there's high energy, like the railways, the river, there can be more activity.
I think there's quite a few ley lines that go through Galesburg as well. I know a
Yeah,
lot of the houses here, even my own, is limestone base from the old limestone blocks, the big
yeah,
ones.
yeah.
Because I've had activity here in my house as well. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of it's linked to some of the stuff there. I've also went back to some of the old maps in Galesburg. A friend of mine has that he's kind of into the paranormal field too as well. And there used to be a horse racing track in the area where I'm living at now,
Oh,
and I'm sure there was a lot of mischievous things happening back then with horse racing and
yeah. Yeah.
swindling and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you said something about the ley lines because a lot of people don't realize that there are ley lines that run through Illinois, and a lot of them do kind of go along with the river because the river is a natural. It conducts electricity and all the electromagnetic stuff. It does that naturally. So the ley lines, it's kind of like a natural form of ley line. But a lot of the mound builders in the Native American communities built their civilizations and built their mounds like right along the ley lines, which I think is really cool. Like their people knew where the highest energy frequencies were
Right.
and where they put their villages. So um,
It kind of relates back to the Egyptians as well. They did the same thing. And I think, it's been brought down through centuries of how they've done it with the ley lines and harnessed the energy. So, but
yeah,
yeah.
we're a lot
And
more mystical, than what we are today.
oh yeah, I've done a lot of studying on the Egyptian stuff, and it's really fascinating. One of my guides is Anubis, and right after I got my Menaki rights, I started having dreams, and he would show me things, and I thought that was really interesting. And I've got a lot of other guides that actually have shown me things as well. So that's really cool because the Menaki rights helps you ground yourself to the earth and everything around you. And it kind of keeps you from getting all that negative energy all the time, where some people would walk into a place you can't breathe.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to affect me as much after I've had my Menaki rights.
Okay.
So, but
That's
yeah, that's
into because I tell you, sometimes like other people's energies, it's just like whoosh, and it's hard not to take it all on, especially
yeah.
today.
I had a great mentor when I was on my older team. She was a Reiki master, and she taught me a lot of things, and it has been very helpful this whole time I've been in the paranormal field. So it all goes hand in hand. So yeah,
That's the thing about also being in the paranormal world. You really have to learn how to protect yourself and you have to learn how to ground yourself because if you don't know how to do all that going in.
you're breaking up a little bit, Jackie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've even been taking for the last little over a year shaman classes, and I've learned a lot from that too. Like
Mm-hmm.
some Peruvian stuff, that I can actually link back. The Peruvians, some of the stuff they've done is similar to some that the Egyptians have done, but they do it in a different way. So, like I said, everybody's different, but it's still the same thing. And I thought that was real interesting on how they've done that as well. So, and you even learn a little bit of Wiccan here and there as well. So,
What kind of advice would you have for like a new paranormal person going in on the easiest way to ground their self before like an investigation, or even if they're just going for a stroll in the cemetery?
what I used to do is I would take obsidian with me. Obsidian soaks in a lot of bad and negative energy and it keeps it away from you. I'm still pretty fond of obsidian. Um, but you know, call upon your guides, ask them to protect you because they will step up if you know who they are.
Yeah, yeah, that's very good advice. I have a lot of people ask me that all the time, and it's everybody's different, so it's hard to explain that to them. But that's really well. No wonder why I like my obsidian earrings so much.
I still carry obsidian with me from time to time, but remember I said my guide's new like Anubis.
Yeah.
He showed me how to make this little thing. And this is
Oh,
kind of like a prototype, but
okay.
it's supposed to be in a different form.
Mm-hmm.
but I had a Reiki master help me conglomerate this, and it's got several different stones in it. So if I don't have my obsidian on me, you can guarantee this one's always on me because it's a combination of several little things.
Okay. Is that kind of like a piece of organite?
It's got a little bit of obsidian in it and finite, clear crystal, and let's see, smoky crystal. And I can't remember what the other one is. I have them all written down, but it's like a combination of several things, and you can
Yeah.
actually feel a lot of energy off it. It's got wrapped in copper as well.
Awesome.
So
That's like great for somebody, like just people in general, to wear some sort of talisman that don't really know how to ground themselves or don't really know how to put themselves in like a mental state of protection. Something like that would be excellent.
have you ever had a chance to go into your Akashic records?
It's so Edgar Casey was somebody that I used to research back in the day. He was the sleeping prophet, and he would go into the Akashic records while he was asleep, and he could diagnose people's illness, and he could also, like, he told the future, I guess, in a way. That's why they called him the sleeping prophet. Some world events that he prophesied had came true and things like that. So I know of the Akashic records through Edgar Casey, which I think is phenomenal. But as far as like delving into them myself, I've never, had the capacity to do that, I don't think.
It's very interesting.
As like dreaming though, I have had dreams several times and then they'll come true. So I guess that's called like a dream psychic or whatever. A lot of the time,
Hmm.
like morning type of dreams though, and so then I know like what to look out for, and maybe how to protect myself that way. But
Yeah, I've had the experience to go into my Akashic records because of my Reiki master that was a mentor, and I've seen some of my past lives, and that's why things kind of make sense. And it's really interesting on how the things that you've been interested all your life in,
mhm,
and then when you see this and understand what it is, it
mhm.
actually makes sense why you've been interested in it the whole time when you were growing up and etc.
Okay, so it's like everybody has like a book. It's like a giant library, and everybody has a book. And so in your book, is it like your all of your past lives and your future lives together in one book?
So far, I've only seen my past lives, some
Okay.
of them. I
Yeah.
haven't been able to see the future because we're not supposed to know that
Right.
unless something major was supposed to happen. Um, but otherwise, I have seen some of my past lives ones where, like I said, I've been back to Egyptian times.
Yeah.
I've been in the times with the knights of the round table.
Amazing.
And I've also seen a time where I was standing in front of a platform or a place and they were talking about crucifying God.
Oh my goodness.
And everybody was just like, and it's like you were actually standing there and all of a sudden you look like this and everybody's mouth just goes,
Wow.
and even the Reiki master that put me under had seen me in the crowd before from where she was.
Wow.
So that made things even interesting, but she never told me that until I mentioned where I was.
Right. So like then she just validated everything for you.
Yeah. So, but it's really interesting.
That's cool. I had a past life regression experience. I was at a psychic fair in Springfield, and there was a lady there, and her name's Donna Kirby, and I do believe she's out of the Springfield area, and I'm not sure if she still does this, but I think she was doing Reiki, and I know she does the past life regressions, and she would also like hook you up to this machine where they could read your aura, and so your whole color and everything would be around, and it would tell you like um pieces about like your health and where you're at like vibrationally on like a scale from one through whatever. And like some people are low vibe. I think that was more of like a reddish amber color in some instances. It just depended on where it was on your body.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But um, she did past life regression, and she kind of like put you under with hypnosis. And I remember I had like this
You're
experience.
breaking up a little bit, Jack.
Oh no, that's awful. Am I still breaking up?
Not there, but when you go back a little bit, you are.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what's going on with my connection. Uh,
Computer gremlins.
Probably. Maybe they don't want me talking about this past life regression stuff. But I had taught myself, and I was like a button maker, and I was down there in either Aztec or Maya, Mexico, by one of those big square pyramid things. And
Mm-hmm.
God, I was making buttons and selling beads, and it was amazing how it just all like kind of whooshed over me during that hypnosis session. And she's still doing it. She's an amazing person. I would highly recommend. You might have to like hunt her down somewhere. I don't know if she's online or on Facebook, but she was really
One of the things that we kind of covered in my shaman classes is Reiki, and some of the people would lay down on like a massage table. They wouldn't tell us anything about them, and we'd go across them with our hands, and we'd feel across the top of their body, and you could actually feel the energy where it protrudes, where people have broken something or have something going on. So we
yeah,
described that, and then the person validated after we found it if we were right or wrong, and it was pretty interesting.
that is amazing. It's like we all are energy, and I don't think a lot of people don't realize like what our energy does and how our energy like affects other people, how it affects just first whatever. Everywhere we go, we put out like a signal energetically, whether we're having an exchange with someone at the grocery store or an exchange with our spouse or even a text. It's all energy. So amazing.
Yeah, energy and frequencies. That's kind of one of the other things I do when I sleep at night. I'll listen to singing bowls,
Oh, I
and
love that.
I'll listen to the frequencies of that during
Yeah.
the time I sleep, and that does some wonders as well.
They can be really soothing. When you're stressed out, put on a singing bowl. You'd be amazed at how much it can help.
Yeah, I like sitting, I like meditating and putting that on, and it does actually does wonders. It actually strengthens you as well. So, but yeah, it's really interesting. Some of the people that's on my team can wield energy like I do because we can make like energy balls, and some of them didn't notice until I pointed it out to them. Um, but they thought that was really interesting, and I've had it where I've had people stand about 10 or 15 feet away from me, and I've taken my finger, and it feels like I'm writing in their hand.
Wow.
So
Are
that,
so are
that
you a Reiki master?
huh?
Are you a Reiki master then?
No.
No, but you do practice Reiki.
Huh?
You do practice Reiki heavily, though.
I do. I like I said, I had a mentor that was a Reiki master that showed me a lot of stuff,
Hmm.
and that's where I learned how to do what I've done so far. But I am definitely going to start going after the Reiki master,
Yeah,
and as soon as I get done dealing with the shaman stuff here a little bit. But
yeah,
it seems like it all falls hand in hand, which is really interesting. So
yeah. So when you're a shaman, will you be able to go clear out houses like that have negative energy or bad spirits lingering around? Because a lot of the time, when a person has a paranormal problem, they'll say you need to call a shaman to get this out of here. So are you going to be able to do that?
I can do that now. I have been doing that.
Okay.
I was helping on the last team that I was on, and I've done it a few times on our team presently.
Okay. That's
So
because I do have people, sometimes they'll reach out and they'll say, Jackie, can you help me? I have something going on in my house. And it really is hard to find someone that's equipped to do what you do. So,
Yeah, I like helping people with issues like that. One of the last ones we had, actually, she was a member of our team, or is a member of our team, and she had some really bad stuff happen in her house. And one of our first investigations was her house.
I,
And before I even let the team go in, me and her were actually kind of doing a pre-investigation because I wanted to know what was in the house.
right.
And it come across our apps, some of the apps we were using,
Mhm.
that it led us to a note she wasn't even aware about. And we found the note that actually described what happened the night that was in question. And it actually said why it happened.
Oh,
And
wow.
she knew nothing about the book or the note. And it came across her app when we were doing a little mini investigation. So what we ended up doing, because she's a rookie, and I have another friend that was on the old team. She went with us, and the three of us sat together and did an energy work.
Mhm.
And one of the new guys that's on the team was sitting on the opposite side of us here, and we pushed all the bad energy out of the house. And he says, I will never sit in that location again because everything that was coming at me felt like it was caving my chest in,
Wow.
because we were moving all the bad out. And I never really thought about it, but I mean, he had his obsidian on him at the time, so I really wasn't worried about him. And plus, I was there. But he says, I felt all that energy start to leave. And then after we did that, we took obsidian crosses and we did it on all corners of the property, the corners of the house, and we christened the house and even put it in the attic. She never had an issue since, and all the good energy has come back and the bad energy is gone.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing
So,
to be able to help somebody like that in that capacity, because people don't know where to turn when they're having that kind of issue. So that's amazing that you guys can do that.
yeah, one of our the second investigations that we had, an elderly lady in her 80s called us and said there's some stuff going on in our house.
Mhm.
And I got there a little early, and she was nervous. I mean, nervous, like, oh, I don't want you to find nothing negative here. I don't want you, doing this. And she was just really worried. And the team being new, they wanted to go live. And I was like, hey, guys, it's like, this lady's nervous. Let's go in and take care of this situation, and etc. And they go, okay. And they kind of agreed because I said a few other things because I said, the lady's nervous. Well, we went in, we did our investigation, and we found out it was a couple little kids. And they go by and they will knock on the table or they'll knock on this and etc. And the lady heard them talking over the equipment. So she got up and left her walker, and I grabbed her by the arm and we walked down the hall where the activity was.
Yeah.
And she says, hello. And they said, hello. I come over the Ovilus. And they said, old. And she goes, I'm not that old. And then all of a sudden it just kind of went funny, a little bit. And she says, do you guys like staying here? And it goes, yeah. So she sat there for a little bit and they kept talking a little bit. And we every answer we got, it was a positive and stuff. And then the rib pod would actually legitify it, as well. Um, but she actually said, if they're just little kids, let them stay here.
Right.
And I said, well, that's up to you. Otherwise, we can tell them to leave. She goes, no. I said, well, I think they're looking at you as being a grandma,
Yeah.
And they're wanting attention. So every time you hear those little knocks and stuff, they're just wanting attention. And she goes, I never thought of it that way. And She said, well, they can stay. And I said, well, every once in a while, pick up a kid's book, read it,
Hmm.
just read it out loud, or play music. And she goes, I play music every day at a certain time. And I said, yeah. I said, that's what they do. And I went back afterwards a week later just to see how she was doing. And she opened the door and she gave me a big hug. She goes, everything's been going great since you guys have been here. She says, I just was so worried, but you guys did a great job. And I was like, that made me the proudest person of our team, you know. And I
Yeah.
told those guys, I said, you guys did a hell of a job that night because it made an elderly woman feel better about her house.
Yeah.
So,
Well, unknown. And then after she knew that it was just it was some kids, then it helped her feel better. So, and it's nice that the kids got to be with like a grandma like figure. So,
yeah, she said, but she says, I will keep your name on my refrigerator. And she said, if I do have any issues with him, I will call you. And I haven't heard anything since, but she's been,
parents,
you know, it's
but
great that, you know, being able to help somebody like that. So that was like our second investigation this year. And I really enjoyed that because, like I said, the team was learning something. Because, like I said, I have 6 rookies that are all new to the field, and one's really good at her stuff so far, and she catches on really quick. So,
that's amazing.
um, but
I
yeah,
don't realize is that how much of a public service this job is, because we really are doing a public service. Every time we go out there, we're helping somebody. So,
that's one of the reasons I keep doing it. I like helping people understand
yeah,
what's going on.
yeah,
And if I run into a bind, I've got more people I can call to find out other things, and I can just keep on going. I mean, uh, the shaman that helps or the shaman that teaches class, you know, I've got his number. He would be willing to help me anytime. And even some of the people in there, you know, some of the Reikis that are masters in there, if I would call them and ask them, I'm sure they would probably help me if I really needed it. So I have a lot of connections with things like that. So that's a good thing to know. But
well,
yeah.
Central Illinois, if you're listening, you know who to call.
Yeah, I definitely like helping people out.
Yeah,
It's a good thing because it gives you a good feeling, especially, you know, churches don't do that anymore, you know,
yeah,
where they used to do it back in the day. And I don't think they give quite a good explanation. And I don't think some people sometimes understand if you have good spirits, you have bad because
yeah,
everything has to have balance.
right,
And, you know, you learn the dark side, you learn the light side, and that's knowledge because if you don't know it, then if you get into the situation of something dark, you don't know how to understand it.
right, right.
You only know this side of it. So you got to learn both sides and keep the balance. So
And that's the basis right there that everybody needs to go by, because there are so many things in this world that we don't understand. There are so many things right now that haven't been scientifically proven yet, but they're there, they're a reality. We just don't know how to describe it. But if you can go back to what you just said about the light and the dark, that'll be your guideline for, hey, this is good or this is bad. And
everything has a mirror regardless.
yeah.
So have you ever encountered portals besides the one in the cemetery you've seen in the picture?
Oh my gosh. So the old house that I used to live in Lewistown, it was covered in portals. Like we had so much activity there all the time. I believe that my daughter has always had abilities. So growing up, that would attract things, especially like, how kids, when they're growing up and then they hit a certain age and then like the emotions are just like woo through the charts.
Mm-hmm.
That's when things really, really started happening around the house. But I remember reaching out to some shaman for help. And I had this shaman do a remote viewing on the property, and they were like, there are 18 different portals on your property. And then we go back to the whole ley line thing and the Native American village thing. And so we had all of that all playing into one. And it was interesting. We don't live at that house anymore.
It's kind of funny you brought up your daughter because I have two daughters. They're 26 and 23.
Yeah.
And when we moved into this house, they were kind of afraid of it. And even the old house we were in. But I think I understand because back then I realized something as well. And when a female is going through her cycles,
Hmm.
that attracts spirits, believe it or not.
I could imagine.
And for some reason, it seemed like a couple different ones were following my daughters all the time because they would never go in the basement here, and they always heard things at the other place as well.
Hmm.
And we actually seen a smoke spiral in my game room one time. I was sitting there, and I just picked up my daughter and got home, and I went in there and I sat down and I started playing my games and stuff, and I'm like, wait, am I seeing what I'm seeing? And I'm just watching this spiral smoke thing in the middle of the game room coming from the floor. And I'm like, okay, there ain't no fire because the floor is not hot. So I hollered at my youngest daughter at the time she was here. I said, do you see what I see? And she come in and she's like, yeah. And there's like a little spiral just going up. And we couldn't figure out where it come from. Went down, turned the fan on, debunked it to make sure the fan wasn't on fire or the wires are getting hot underneath the floor.
Right.
Um, but yeah, and she even said she smelled something different. It wasn't bad, but she smelled something different. And I didn't pick up that part, but yeah, that was definitely an interesting one as well.
What do you think that was? Do you think that was a portal, or do you think that was some sort of a spirit or apparition?
Well, I know the previous team that I was on, we had some rookies we were training and they were here, and I have actually got 6 of them here, spirits that are here. And I know 2 of them are little kids. Even one day when my oldest daughter was here, we were getting ready to watch a pay-per-view and she kept looking at the closet and she's like, it's in the closet. And I was like, yeah. And all of a sudden the Matchbox cars I got hanging on the wall, because I got them on little plastic hooks,
Yeah.
they started popping off the wall she was sitting there. She's like freaking out. And this wasn't long after I started on the previous team. And she calls my daughter and she's like, Dad's got some issues going on here, because she was studying Wiccan at the time a little bit. And I looked at her and she was video chatting face to face with her. And I said, just tell your sister I don't need her, and tell her to stop grinning. And she goes, Dad knows you're grinning. He ain't even looking at the picture.
Oh my.
And I said, yeah. I said, there's 2 little kids here. And they stopped. I said, I put a little soccer ball up there. I said, you guys can play with this stuff, leave this other stuff alone. We didn't have any issues with it the rest of the night, but I knew what they were. But it
Yeah.
literally freaked her out because she is very empathic and she does not want to touch that realm. And so is my other daughter.
Yeah. I don't blame them. It can be scary. You know? We had this thing. It kind of looked like a cat, but it walked on like 2 legs. It wasn't a cat, but it looked like one with like the pointy ears. And have
Mm-hmm.
you ever seen that sleep paralysis painting where it's the little demon thing on the person's?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it looked like. And I ended up having to have like a shaman get rid of that. And when they were getting rid of that, there were like pounding. It sounded like pounding coming from the inside of the walls. Sounded like a dog whining, like this high pitched whining animal noise coming from the closet where the portal thing was. I mean, it was intense. We had some really intense energy at that house. There would be toys underneath the bed, like battery operated toys that would just go off by themselves. And just like everything at once. I had drawers fly open by themselves. It was funny because the dog had looked over at my computer desk and his little ears perked up, like he was looking at something, and then the drawers flew open and it was like, whoa, this is really intense. But I think it was the area. I feel like the whole town is like that.
Yeah,
So
my dog, I have a great Burmese, and every morning at 3 a.m., nonstop, he'll sit there and start growling, and I'll look around the room. I can feel energy here, like I said, but he'll sit there and you'll hear him going, and he's just laying there looking. So something's here, but
yeah, They always know. They can sense it before we can, or I don't know if they can sense the energy shift or if they can actually see it. I have no idea, you know. But
Hello, haunted angels.
hello.
But yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, so I've had quite a few experiences, and we've done a lot of residentials. At least I've done a lot of residentials, and we've come across a lot of things. Even a 12-year-old boy picked up the front of a lawnmower and slammed it like 12 times. I mean, a good sized riding mower. The front end of it just picked it up and bounced it. Oh yeah, he had an attachment with him, and we took it out of him. But
Yeah.
yeah, it took about 4 of us to hold him down. But yeah, it was unreal. That the Reiki master was there that day. I was there, and like I said, that was on the old team. But we've even experienced objects that had a lot of energy in them. That's kind of got a bad feeling to them.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know now, we probably shouldn't have did what we did, but we did at the time. We lit it on fire and got rid of it.
Oh.
And the whole time we did it over the Ovilus, it was cussing us like you can't believe.
Oh
I
my.
think we were called every name in the book.
So what happens when you burn it? Does all that energy just go up into the ether, or is it?
It'll definitely go away.
Yeah.
Normally, I contain them and put them in salt,
Yeah.
and then it just deteriorates on its own.
Yeah.
We've even had a previous team that called to the old team, and we came to Galesburg, and it was on the news that they found a half a body in the house.
Oh my Lord. Was that before
And
you guys were there?
yeah, it was before we got there. The previous team went there, and they got a lot of stuff they couldn't figure out. So they called the old team I was on, and we went there, and it was like almost a 10-hour investigation. And we ended up taking care of that. And even over the super hearing ears that our teammates had at the time, it was like murder, rape, etc. We found some very obscene pictures of kids. I'll leave it at that. From the late 60s, maybe early 70s. We found news articles of John Wayne Gacy and Charles Manson in the attic. And we also found Tim at the time was spraying some luminol. We found blood on the walls still in a location.
That's like giving Johnny Gosh vibes, you know, the
missing. And what was really funny about it is right after I got married, I lived 3 houses around the corner from this house.
Oh my gosh. So you don't know what could have been going on at that house. That could have been a house of horrors.
Well, it was linked to, from what we understand, slave times. Mm-hmm. So there was a tunnel from that house to the house on the corner that's been closed off because one was the servants' quarters and one was the house. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that little incident, we end up containing it, and he's sitting at the bottom of Lake Story in a crystal.
Oh my gosh.
He's gone.
That's amazing. So you said something about John Wayne Gacy.
And, there's the other thing. The week after we were there, my mom found a article about Gacy being in this area.
Wow.
So that was really
well, especially if there were pictures, you know, bad pictures of underage kids, and Gacy was kind of like into that kind of thing. So it really makes you wonder. There's this lady that I follow, and she does genealogy. Her handle is DNA Mystery Solver. And she has linked every single serial killer that we've had here in America to passengers that came over on the Mayflower. And so a lot of the serial killers are actually related to each other, like John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer. They are all related to each other, and they're related to H.H. Holmes. But they also have some famous cousins like Taylor Swift and, you know, other people.
We want to go into that subject because there's a lot of controversy on that one right now.
but I'm just saying that it's interesting, the genealogy and how like they're all related to each other, and that it comes over from like these one or two bloodlines out of Europe. So
Hmm. Yeah, that's definitely
she has
def-
interesting stuff. Go watch her. It's a rabbit hole, a very deep rabbit hole that you can go down for days.
Oh, I like a good conspiracy. I'll dig on conspiracies and all sorts of stuff like that.
Okay.
But like I said, just in the time that I've been in the paranormal field, I've experienced quite a bit, and it's
Yeah.
definitely been interesting. I like to learn new stuff from people. I'm not afraid to share what I know with others, if I know their energy's right. But you come across certain people you just don't want to do that with either,
Right.
because they're only wanting the power part of it, and who knows what they'll actually do with it.
Right.
So, and that's not a good thing. So,
Right. Well, I've always also tried to find logical explanation for things. That's not always possible. But I just like sometimes when you try to find logical explanations for things and people really want it to be paranormal, then they can take it the wrong way and act like you don't believe in the paranormal. But it's like, no, no, I'm just trying to help you understand
hmm
it to be a certain way because, it's not that I don't believe I'm 100% a believer, but I just, I want to help people and I want to also be logical about it.
so I know a place that we've both been to, not together anyway, but on separate occasions.
Okay.
Springdale Cemetery in
Yes.
Peoria, Illinois.
I actually live near Springdale now, and like I have a room in my basement painted haint blue, to keep the spirits away because
So, the lady in white, Miss Mildred Hallmark.
yeah.
What what have you experienced with her there?
So I went to the gazebo where her body was found, just to try to see if I could get some energy or get some pictures of, well, just anything, I guess. But Mildred was a possible victim of a serial killer that was here in Peoria, way back in the day. So she got she was last seen getting off of a streetcar, and then her body was found in the cemetery. A lot of people have seen her apparition right where that gazebo is, of just like a woman in a white dress, and that's what she had was apparently wearing whenever they found her body. But they ended up getting the guy, and he was a serial rapist. I don't know how many other victims he got, but he was a serial rapist, but we don't know if he was a serial killer, which he probably was, I would imagine.
Yeah. Right when I started this team. I went to Springdale Cemetery to get some footage for the opening, which the night we were there it was pouring rain and everything else, but everybody wanted to go check it out. So we ended up going checking it out. We went to that little pavilion you were talking about,
Yep.
and we actually got EVPs of a woman saying, "Stay here," and you'd look off in the distance that night, and you would actually see shadows of entities out there, maybe 50 yards out. And you could feel the energy that was just in that location of that pavilion. So,
I love Springdale. You can feel a lot of different energy in the different places, and it has a lot of good stories, like the vampire story, the witches circle, and a lot of people have actually taken their lives at the witches circle, which is really sad, but you know,
I actually seen energy hanging from that tree at the witches circle.
yeah.
And one of the teammates asked at the time, "How long do you have to keep doing this?" And they said, "Until the angels tell me to stop."
Oh wow.
But we've actually had pictures of sacrifices that looked like it's been stained on the cement of the witches circle.
Oh my
And it
gosh.
looked like small animals at the time we were out there.
So you think that people are going there now doing that kind of stuff at the witches circle?
I think they have been, and some probably still do. And one of the last things when I was there before is I got this hearing in my head, that they said they wish they would stop doing that because that is actually a family circle.
Right. Yeah, it's a family plot.
And everybody calls it the witches circle.
Right.
So, and it's just like the vampires. I think you're talking about the purples.
Was that the vampire, the purples? So I
Yeah.
never really got the full vampire story, but I knew that there was a vampire story at Springdale.
Me and a former teammate looked into that story and come to find out what we found at the time. Actually, Mr. Purple was a lawyer for the state of Illinois and helped do the Constitution.
Okay.
So that was something interesting.
He contributed a lot to Peoria too. He donated a lot of money and was a pretty well-to-do guy, from what I gathered. Because I did read some about Mr. Purple. I didn't know that he was the vampire or the alleged vampire.
Well, it's him or his wife allegedly was supposedly
Okay.
because they're buried in the crypts above the ground right there.
Okay. So an interesting thing about those crypts, you know how you go down that road and there's like those mausoleums and then you come around and cross that bridge. So
Mm-hmm.
that bridge there has some activity. I go walking there and there is something under that bridge. I don't know if it's a spirit or a non-human entity, but there is, check out that bridge next time you're at Springdale because it'll be pretty interesting, I imagine.
I definitely will. I know the team. I told them I would take them out to show them the witches circle and the purple graves because we did go out to the mausoleum where Mildred Hallmark was. We have been there.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, that cemetery is definitely interesting.
Oh yeah, big time. And then there's another mausoleum, and I think it's over by the Bueller Mausoleum. There's an angel, and she's a big, tall statue of an angel. Sometimes people will put flowers in her arms, but I'm like, whenever I see that statue, I'm thinking like Interview with the Vampire when that statue comes to life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that. That was a good one.
Yeah,
But yeah, one time we were at the Washington Cemetery and
in
we
Washington,
had the Washington Cemetery.
where's that at?
Um, I can't tell you exactly where it was, but one of our teammates at the time took us there because they lived there,
Okay.
and that's the night we also got kicked out by the cops.
Oh,
But
okay.
but but anyway, we were there and we had a teammate get actually scratched a couple times and choked.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we actually heard dogs whimpering. We couldn't figure out where the dogs were whimpering from, and there was no dogs around.
Oh, that's a bad. I've encountered that, the dogs whimpering thing before in an old abandoned house and kind of in my old house whenever they had to get rid of that thing. And like anytime I've heard the dogs whimpering, it's always been associated with nothing good.
Yeah, I kept walking the cemetery with the person I was with that night,
Hmm.
trying to figure out where it was coming from, and we could not locate it at all. But it sounded like a bunch of little puppies or dogs just whining and whimpering.
Yeah, leading you to a trap, break your ankle or something like that, you know.
You know,
Usually how that kind of stuff works.
I'd like to go back there, but the time we were there, we were walking back and we seen the cops pull up, and they were
Yeah.
checking out our cars at the time. And one of our colleagues had haunted dolls in her car, and
Oh,
they were sitting there looking like this, and then all of a sudden they seen all of us coming up with our gear, and they seen our shirts, and it's like, nope, we don't want nothing to do with you guys. Just get out of here, get out
right.
of here, you
Right.
know. But yeah, that was definitely an interesting night too with them. Um, but yeah,
I found a chair at Springdale, like a metal chair that I didn't sit in it, but it kind of reminded me of a devil's chair. Have you ever heard of a devil's
I've
chair?
been to the Devil's Chair.
Okay. Which one? Because there are a couple cemeteries that have different devil's chairs.
Well, the devil's chair that I'm talking about ends up being a captain of a ship.
Okay.
And I'm not positive where it was. Tim, at the time, my old team member, he took us to that location. And
Okay.
I actually seen the devil's chair that night. But it was actually the captain of a ship, because we kept kind of reading it, but the chair is actually broken, but it does look like a chair.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why they end up calling it the devil's chair, because Tim did some research on it before we went that day.
Okay. There's a
So,
chair over in, I want to say Muhammad, but I'm not sure if it's Muhammad or Monticello. It's somewhere near Champaign. And my daughter and her friends, when they were teenagers, they went out and they sat in one of her friends had sat in the chair. And when they sat in the chair, they heard a growl. And then not very long after that, the girl was diagnosed with cancer.
oh wow.
Yes. And then my another family member of mine actually went out there and sat in that chair, and his mom later passed away of cancer. So I don't know. Don't ever sit in a devil's chair. Is
Wow.
all I
And
got.
that's the one. And that's the one in Monticello, right?
Yes, I do believe so. So
I'm not sure where Monticello is, but this one
it's
was north.
okay.
And one of my old teammates actually sat in that chair, and supposedly you're supposed to die 1 year after the time you sat in it. He's still alive.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, where the whole story or the wives' tale of the devil's chair comes from. Like, if they are cursed somehow just from being where they're at, or if, like, the dead don't like it when you sit around in the cemetery. I don't really know.
Or did somebody actually bring a curse upon that chair
Right. Yeah.
to validate it?
Right.
With people out there tampering with stuff and, doing seances and curses and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
who knows? I mean, sometimes that's what brings the bad things to the cemetery. And I mean,
Right.
I've been through cemeteries where you're walking along the road, and if you look over to your right or your left and you're just kind of glaring, you can actually see guardians of the cemeteries
Yeah.
walking around. You can see them standing there. And I mean, I've seen them out of the corner of my eyes, especially if you come across a cemetery that's full of kids in that location, because you do get a lot of activity in that little area.
Yeah.
So we've had that. That's been in the one in Chillicothe. I think it's Chillicothe, down off the main drag. We were in that cemetery. So
Oak Hill Cemetery in Lewistown. That one's haunted for sure. Edgar Lee Masters, he was a famous poet back at the turn of the century. He wrote a book of poems, and it was actually like dirty laundry and gossip about the town and people that lived in the town, but it was disguised as poems on people's tombstones. So,
oh wow.
in his story, he's like going around reading epitaphs on the tombstones, but it's basically like talking to the entire town. And his books were not allowed in Lewistown until after the 60s, because some of the families were still like very upset and mad over all that. But he disguised it as Oak Hill Cemetery. Anyhow, my daughter and I were at Oak Hill Cemetery, and we were walking around, and I was pointing out like an open plot to her, and I was kind of explaining. I was like, there aren't any tombstones over there because one day that's an open plot. One day it'll be filled up. It's just not now. And there was a voice right in between us, and it went, yeah. And like I thought it was her saying yeah, and she thought it was me saying yeah at first, and then we both looked at each other and we were like, "Did you just say that?" And we're like, "No." And we're like, "Okay, then." That was like really loud, and it was right in between us, so it was like having part in our conversation. And there are other things at Oak Hill. There are pillars there around this cannon that Abraham Lincoln did a speech under. What else? I'm drawing a blank right now, but anyhow, Oak Hill is a very interesting cemetery to go to. It's really full of history. A lot of Fulton County history is there. It's interesting. if you're a cemetery enthusiast, uh, like poetry, then mark that one off your list.
Yeah. It also makes you curious sometimes if you read the back of a gravestone and you don't understand what it means either, what exactly it is,
Yes, yes. So,
because it could be a symbol, or a protection right, or whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
And if you're not into the paranormal and understand what it is, you might not know what it is, because sometimes I've learned that you can almost write a full sentence and it almost looks like a square if you know how to unpeel it
yeah,
and read it. And
yeah,
that even comes from the Egyptian times.
yeah,
They would use some of our own letters and they turn them in a different direction, make it look something different. And you could actually read some of it if you know what you're looking for. But
yeah. Well,
yeah.
nowadays people are putting their grandma's cookie recipes on the back of their tombstone.
Well,
That's one way she'll live on forever. People will be making her cookies.
well,
So
there you go. At least it'll be passed on to somebody who would use it or like it. So
exactly.
is definitely a good thing. Has there ever been a place that you've been that you will never return to?
That I will never return to. I've never really had anything like that scary happen to me, I guess. I've been grabbed, I've been pinched at the Lake County Jail where John Dillinger escaped from. I Someone pinched my butt, and so I assume it was probably one of the prisoners that used to be there because it was like a all male prison or whatever. So, um I'm trying to think of any other times I've been touched because when you're in the
Well,
when you're in the paranormal world for this long and you have so many experiences, it's hard to just kind of put your finger on one or whatever. I can't really name a time where I was really, really scared out of my wits besides being in the back of a cemetery when it was pitch dark, and you can still see shadows that are darker than the dark moving around. I don't think I'm that again.
um, about the time I was 24, and when I got married, because the first time I was only married the once, but I got baptized when I was 21, Catholic.
Hmm.
And that's when I had my first experience ever, was with my grandma. She appeared in the church where I was sitting at. And she actually was younger, didn't use her walker. She had her little pendant on her chest with all the grandkids' or birthstones in it and stuff. And
Hmm.
she looked like the day she was when she got married, like in her wedding picture. And she sat down next to me in the last pew where I always sat at. And she says, "Sean, don't you ever worry about a thing. You're going to make it." Of course, I went through some tough stuff right before that happened. And then the next time, right before I got married, I was going through the Lutheran part of it. And I seen the devil lean over the side of the building and look at me and says, "Where's your God now?" That
Ugh,
kind of freaked me out a little
I
bit.
bet that would be scary.
Um, then let's see. Um, I was always having dreams at the time, and I never understood them back then. A friend of mine was working at one of his facilities, like a KCCD home, like to help the handicapped people.
Hmm.
And I come to him the next morning, and he happens to be a preacher. And I said, "Did you have a bad night last night?" And he goes, "Why?" I said, "Did you go out the back door where you lived or working at?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Is there a garage back there with like 3 doors back there for cars or vehicles?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Did you ever get a strange feeling?" And he goes, "No." Well, it was like I was looking through his eyes, and there was a devil dog above him asking him where his God was. And he had a super bad night that night. He never did know why.
Oh my God.
Um, a couple days later, I had a dream. I was standing out in the middle of the desert, and another minister friend of mine was talking about this after I told him. But I was standing in front of a door that looked like a castle with a chain in front of it. And when I look up, you could see jets falling out of the air, angels falling out of the air, tanks on the ground, and all sorts of stuff like that. And all of a sudden, I'd wake up, I'd go back to sleep, and it would pick right back up. And
Yeah.
I'd wake up, and it's like time did not move at the time it was happening.
Yeah.
And I was standing at that door, and somebody explained this to me after it was said, but it says, the voice that I heard said, whatever is in here, do not let it come out. And I'm the only one standing there.
Oh my
And this
gosh.
door is like 10, 15 feet tall, like an old Coliseum type door, but it was like a castle, like the old castle doors you'd open up with a chain through it. And you could hear the chain rattling.
Oh.
And somebody explained to me that was me seeing a premonition at the time of young men will be dreaming dreams of yet to come. And it was in the Bible.
Yeah. Well,
And
reminds me of the Euphrates drying up, because there's videos of like the Euphrates drying up, and like there's chain noises and like groans and scary noises that are happening under the ground over there, which is a Bible prophecy that there are things chained up under the Euphrates.
isn't that the place where they found or they drilled that hole really deep as well, and they're hearing growls and stuff down in the hole?
I don't know. I mean, it could be.
They dropped a mic so many feet down in there, and they said they were hearing screams and whines and cries of something that was in that hole.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing that things like that go on in our earth, and there are a lot of things that we don't know or that aren't explained, but our government kind of knows about and chooses to keep us in the dark. I don't like that. It's like, why don't they just tell us? They're coming out about the aliens now, but there's way more than just the aliens, you know.
I've heard the rumor that our government's 300 years ahead of us,
I believe it. I
and
would.
even Jesse the Body Ventura, he used to have a show on called Conspiracy Theories.
I loved that show.
And I would watch that constantly. And he made a statement on there. He says, whatever you have seen in the movies, you can bet your butt our military has it.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Black Mirror? The show Black Mirror on Netflix. It's all about technology and where our technology could end up like being the downfall of man, and some things that are on Black Mirror they have now. And that show came out years and years ago. But one of the things they have is like a little contact lens that you can put in your eye, and it's a camera. So you
Oh,
can
yeah.
like tape your whole day, and then you can go back and rewind and see what you might have missed throughout your day. And the robot dogs, like the little robot dogs, Black Mirror, and those things were like killing everybody in the show. So it's like, I hope they don't start going crazy, you know?
Another, hello, Mercedes. Another guy I kind of follow is Bill Carson.
Okay, that sounds so.
He's like the fourth leading person of knowledge on Egyptian writing, crypts, and etc. And he's been all over the world. And it's really funny because after I've had my Benaki rites, was starting to have dreams. And what he's talking about, he's actually verified what I've seen in dreams.
That's amazing.
And that is just validating everything that I've been hearing in my dreams, seeing in my dreams, and what my guides have showed me. And I'd really love to talk to that man if I ever had a chance. That's one guy I would really love to talk to, especially with the Egyptian stuff.
It's amazing. Well, they say that we're all connected like through our consciousness, and like some people can tap into that better. It's like a skill that you kind of hone and work on, because energy goes where attention flows, or attention flows where energy goes, however that saying goes. So
Right.
sometimes people aren't conscious of that until they are, and then they start thinking about it, and you can practice it easier.
Well, it's just like some of the things, with energy, I can make energy around an object feel like it's really solid almost, but for some reason you can't move it.
Mm-hmm.
you know, but you've got enough energy, it should be able to move it.
Yeah.
And I've understood the fact if you're not on the same frequency of that object, you can't move it.
Yeah. Like
So,
and there's supposedly like some Tibetan monks that can levitate. They've learned how to like master that.
oh yeah, the monks are notorious for a lot of things. Even the humming they do for hours has a specific thing for it.
Well, it's like
It's
your
like,
frequency when they do that, kind of like a,
mhm.
you know.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The Tibets and those guys have really mastered a lot of things, but they've also not been contaminated with all the stuff that we have, TV, propaganda, all that stuff as well. And if
Well, that
you
was done
know,
by design, because you can't have people be doing that kind of stuff. So,
and witchcraft and everything's forsaken, but there's some things that I have learned, and you probably have as well. Even praying in some way is actually casting a spell
hmm hmm well,
because you are
so
manifesting what you want,
right,
and some people don't understand that either. But like
yeah,
I said, even even some of the things that I've been learning here lately, they said God disappeared for a while, and when he disappeared, he went to Egypt, and from what I understand, he learned from like Horus and those guys, Reiki and stuff like that. So he actually learned how to do all his healing from some of the Egyptians,
hmm
and it has been documented.
Does Reiki kind of like does that derive from Hermeticism? Is that one of like Hermes' teachings?
Excuse me, you kept breaking up.
Does Reiki derive from Hermeticism at all?
I'm sure it has some links to it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't really dug into the details of the medicine side of it.
Mm-hmm.
I more or less dig into the side of the energy because I got more in common with the energy part, but it's very interesting on the things like you said, Reiki is very interesting, and
Oh
I'm
yeah.
definitely going to be looking a lot into the Reiki. So one thing else, I mean, we've been like 14 minutes over, but the conversation is going good, so it don't matter. It's all good. We can go as long as you want, as long as you don't want to get kicked off. Um, One thing I thought was really cool. I seen your picture that you gave me. You have crystal balls.
Yes, I do. Quartz crystal is my favorite, and I have like loved it and cherished it ever since I was a kid. I have been a rock collector since I was like 6 years old. I don't know why, I don't know what, but quartz has all just clear quartz has always been my absolute favorite. I always liked pyrite when I was a kid too, but for some reason and clear quartz is just my go-to still. I don't know why, but I love it.
Do you ever do any scrying?
Sometimes I do. A lot of the times, I'll get out my ball when I'm doing tarot because I feel like it helps me kind of connect to the tarot energies easier. So I also have like an obsidian black mirror that I've scryed with, and but the thing about the
Yeah.
black is like it shows you things that you don't want to see. When you look into the black, mine does anyway. When you look, mine does. Like when you look into it, it shows you like part of yourself that maybe you're not ready to see yet,
Right.
or omen of like, hey, if you don't watch yourself, this is gonna happen. So,
One of the things when I was up in Galena, I had an opportunity with paranormal exposure. Uh, they were doing Reiki, or not Reiki, but scrying that night. And I sat down in front of one of her scrying mirrors when we were at a location, and she took a picture of me, and it looks like I'm like 90 years old.
oh, really?
Yeah, I've got the picture. I mean, I don't know how to pull it up on this, but I can show it to you later.
That's
But
experience with my black obsidian mirror. Like I was looking into it, and there was something that looked like the fucking crypt keeper looking back at me, and I didn't like that at all. Because I was like, that's my fear. myself. I don't like that.
She said that's a good thing though, because the fact is, you're going to age, and that's around the time. And I've been told by some people that what my death time will be.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if it actually happens.
Yeah.
But
well, nobody know that. Nobody wants to know that.
Well,
it'll be like that Final Destination where you're walking around with bubble wrap on.
Well, I guess it's kind of a weird thing, because being an empath and picking up on people when I'm around them at times, they didn't actually say 100%, but the feeling when you said a number, when it was going to be, because we cannot see our future.
Right.
You can see bits and parts of it, because I have been with certain people that I could see a future with and it looked good, but you can never tell the ending of it.
Right. Well, and some of back to our choices too, because like we can make one small minute choice that can change.
Hello, Jamie Lynn.
Hello, Jamie. That can like change the whole outcome of something else, like we have the same destiny, but how we get there might vary based on one small choice that we made, so
yeah. And you don't want to ever tell somebody that to alter their destiny either, because that could come back on you, and that's not very good either.
Right.
So, but yeah, scrying is one of the things. Like I said, after I had my monocurites and I was dreaming a lot as well, like I said, I would get hieroglyphic signs of certain things, and I've got a whole list of them that had popped up, and me and the Reiki master went through and looked at them, and those are supposedly some of the things that I can work on, because I'm linked to some of those things. And even one time we had Melinda Williams. I don't know if you know who she is. She was on a show a year ago or so, and we got to talk, and I found out that I've got markings on underneath my foot that indicate being a shaman.
Okay.
So that's what got me into the shamanism, and I started digging into that. So she kind of gave me the guide to that. So Melinda Williams is the one that got me onto that. And I've also got certain markings in my hand, which I'm sure you know about, the triangles and the little crosses.
Hey, check your palms, because I'm sure that they're there too.
Oh yeah, like the little crosses underneath your fourth finger is like Celtic and magic in your life and everything else. But I also do know one thing: they will change.
Yeah, they can change if your destiny changes.
Yeah, because I've noticed mine starting to change, and the patterns in my hands starting to change, and I keep getting this thing from people. By the time I'm 55, something's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be a very good thing on the path that I'm going. So now I'm really curious, since I'm on the right path, of what's going to happen when I'm 55. And that's in...
How old are you now?
52.
Well, maybe you'll have your own TV show or have some sort of a breakthrough.
Well,
scientific breakthrough, though, with the paranormal, because that's what we're doing. We're trying to prove this, scientific.
Well, I like to help people, for one, but I like the knowledge, because, like I said, knowledge gives you the capability of helping others. And that's how I look at it. I don't look at it as using it for bad.
Right.
And I would never cross that line, but I do know the dark side as well as I do know the good side.
There are some really deep rabbit holes, and then just trying to like peel one onion layer of that back and explain it to someone to try to help them, is everything that you can actually do that, and that you're capable of doing that. That's amazing,
I thought you already got it, Jamie, when we were on that trip there in Galena. because that's how I got to go to Galena. Jamie Lynn won some tickets to the paranormal convention down there, and we went down there, and I visited her for the first time and met her. And we actually got to stay in the motel that we investigated and a couple other places. And I met Paranormal Exposure there as well.
That's awesome.
And I met what do I want to say? A parapsychologist. And he gave me some information on some books to read about psychokinetic kinesis.
Okay.
Which I'm about 3/4 of the way through, and it's kind of aggravating because it seems like they keep repeating themselves the whole book, which I'm thinking I want to know some other knowledge, just not repeat yourself.
Okay.
But then he's also gave me this book. I don't know if you can see it. Try to get it where you can.
Okay, there we go.
He actually wrote this book and he signed this book for me.
Nice.
And it's about how people from, like, say, California, and then their spouse or other lives in Illinois or something, and they actually feel that somebody died. That's what that book's all about.
Okay.
So, like, twin connection is more or less what that is kind of like. But it was really interesting talking with him because I learned a lot from him as well.
I'm sure. So, back to this psychokinesis thing. There was a case in Macomb, Illinois, back in the 60s. There was a girl named Juanette. She was, I want to say, 13 years old. And like her parents had divorced. She originally grew up in Bloomington. Her parents divorced. So the dad took her and her siblings and they moved out to Macomb to some farm out in the middle of nowhere. She was used to being in a city with her friends. Now she's out in the middle of nowhere. She's very unhappy. She doesn't have her mom. So these mysterious fires started breaking out around the house. It started with like just little pieces of wallpaper that would just burst into flames and then they would kind of fizzle out. But then it got bad enough to where like the whole barn was burning down, like the house was on the verge of burning down. And come to find out, it was like this girl. She was doing, like she was starting the fires with her mind. So it was like part poltergeist, part telekinesis, with the fire starter. I don't know if it was Stephen King or Dean Koontz. One of them wrote the book Firestarter, and then it was Drew Barrymore movie when she was a little girl. But that story was actually spawned from Macomb, Illinois, that little girl. And like the whole farm ended up being engulfed by the end of it. And there were police investigators that were there that actually saw the fires burst and start out of nowhere. And they had no explanation for it. So that's why nobody was ever arrested for arson. Like they thought it was arson at first. But after they had been there and they had witnessed the fires break out themselves and they had no explanation for it. So it was kind of like a mystery. And I don't know if the girl ever ended up moving back to Bloomington, or not. So,
well, that'd be around our age, or at least my age, back in that time. So that.
Yeah. And you know what it's like when, 13-year-old girl, when the emotions are high, all that stuff. So.
Exactly. And the book that I was reading, it was about a girl that was overseas and the same thing was happening to her. She would pick up objects in the house and they would be slinging across the room. And she would be doing it when she was sleeping and not realizing it, and kept tearing up the house and everything else. And they brought a bunch of scientists in. And this happened like during 1973. And they had people coming from all over the world studying her. And then they said some of it was fake and stuff. And then they actually documented that she would be holding like a utensil and she would rub it for a little bit and all of a sudden it would just bend in her hand.
Wow.
So objects like that, pieces of glass that's been busted, it was on the floor, would be flying around. And she actually knocked off, one time she was in a classroom and her teacher actually witnessed it, that she knocked a flower pot off the ledge.
Wow.
So, but yeah, that was during the 70s back then. And then I also know the military had a program at one time. I can't remember what exactly it was called, but they've done a lot of research on psychokinesis.
Was it the men that stare at goats thing?
That was part of it, yeah.
Yeah. See, our government and our military know a lot more than what they're letting on. There are so many secrets and mysteries to this world, and we're barely even scratching the surface.
Yeah, I mean, everything I've noticed here lately, and to be honest, since my abilities have come up, because I put a damper on them for a while. Like I said, it kind of freaked me out when I was having those dreams back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then I really got back into it and realized some of the stuff I can do with the energy and stuff. And I have known more and more, and lately everything's based on frequencies and stuff like that, and how you perceive it, and if you can hear it, see it, you can feel it. And I mean, everybody is actually capable of doing this as well, and they just need to sit and learn how to do it.
Right. I
And
I agree with you on that. 100%.
I also remember reading something about over by I don't know, Italy or Spain or something like that, somewhere over there, that way back in time they were getting attacked from the ocean side, and all these people just started gathering on the mountain, and they started, you hear this hum and everything, and I guess supposedly those people sunk the boats, caused storms and everything else
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
So I mean, some people have this knowledge and has passed it down, and some people's kept it from us.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of in the camp where I think there was a advanced civilization at some point in time on this earth, because our earth is so old, so old. So I think that we are completely narcissistic to think that we're the only ones that have ever embraced the technology like we have today. I
Mm-hmm.
they're like ancient Atlantis, there are so many stories about Atlantis and their advanced technology. So who's to say that that didn't really exist, or another civilization like that? All it takes is one global cataclysm to wipe everything out, especially like right now we're so delved in our technology. Like when we have history going on, it's all up in the cloud or whatever. If we get wiped, our last 20 years of history might go along with it, because nothing's set in stone anymore. It's all in the cloud, or it's all in technology. The only things that are going to be standing is Mount Rushmore if we have a global cataclysm. So,
Yeah, I mean, I've even done some studies on the Statue of Liberty and how it looks like one of the ancient gods, actually, instead of what it was actually for.
right.
So that's interesting too, because supposedly that was brought over. What we learned when we were in school, that was brought over by the natives or the other countries to,
France.
for us to embrace the new people coming to America.
Yeah.
But that may not necessarily be true.
Yeah. Might be a symbol for something else.
Yeah, like I said, I've dug into a lot of things, and it just keeps me asking more and more questions. And
Yeah.
like I said, I like to sit and talk with people that know some things like this and learned what they learned.
There are a
And
lot of
then,
rabbit holes. It's like pick one. Which one do you want to go down?
yeah, I have a friend. His name is Aaron Hoffman, and once you start him in the rabbit hole, oh my God, you can go all night talking with him with stuff, and it's amazing some of the stuff he comes up with, and it's actually good. So he's been on our show before, and yeah, he's got some good information, some of the things he knows as well.
Well, let me know next time he's on, and I'll tune in.
Well, I can definitely have him on, and we can holler at you, and we can have a big three-way talk.
Okay. That sounds
We,
so.
I mean, I can probably get him to come on. I mean, but yeah, it's interesting. I'd kind of like to eventually, if I can get enough people, kind of like have a talk show just like the Knights of the Round Table,
Yeah.
and talk about a specific topic of the night or something, and just kind of dig that hole and see how far we go, you know. and what everybody kind of knows about it and what they chime in on it. Then we got to worry about getting kicked off the air. But
You know what? When you're 55, maybe you can do something like that in studio. Have like everyone sitting around the round table in the studio, and then yeah, we can all
I've
talk.
got plenty. I've got plenty of room in my house. I could do that right now if I wanted to make a table.
Heck
So,
yeah.
but yeah, that would definitely be interesting. But some of the people would be out of state, so that'd be a little hard.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's been an hour and a half. Jackie, is there anything else you'd like to discuss, or anything coming up for you that you'd like everybody to know?
I don't know. I've just been so busy trying to live life and um be creative and hold down a job and everything all at once. So, I
Well,
actually just in on production. I was the lead PA on a movie called Smile Maker. It was filmed in Jacksonville, Illinois. It's a horror movie. It's still in post editing phase, so it's hard telling when it'll be out.
that's
But
cool.
it's a lot of fun. I love doing stuff like that. I like getting to meet and work with talented people, other artists, other creatives, other sensitives, because all of it goes kind of hand in hand, really. So I feel blessed that I got to do something like that.
Yeah, like I said, my team, I kind of handpicked them out, and each one of us has some of the same similar abilities, and some deal with Wiccan and stuff like that. So that's a good thing. So I can kind of go to where I need to for knowledge when they're there. So, and you said you live close to Springdale, right?
Yeah, I live in Peoria now. So I don't live in Lewistown anymore. I left my extremely haunted house behind, and I haven't really felt any spirits here besides a ghost cat. So there's just a ghost cat in my new house. That's it. Nothing scary.
Well, I tell you what, if I can round up the team on a weekend, how would you like to go collaborate with us and go out to Springdale and we'll go live?
Hey, I would love to do that. Just let me know when. I would
I
love to.
will. I'll see what the team's schedule is with some of the things, because a lot of them's been busy lately. I haven't been out very much lately.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they like to see the witches circle and the purple's graves
Have
and
you that
stuff like that.
woods?
What?
Have you ever walked up that path in the woods? There's like a sidewalk that goes up this ravine. It starts down there kind of by the gazebo where the white lady is, and then it goes up into the woods. And I'm trying to think of where it ends up at, but or what grave it ends up at, but cool little path to take. And it's up the ravine. So I think
Hang on, I'm answering. Actually, Aaron just texted me. Hang on a second. Sorry about that. I'm working on a project with him. It was kind of an art challenge. I've got mine drawn. I just haven't got it inked yet, and I think it was due today. So maybe he'll give me a little bit of leeway, so I can get it inked. But yeah, he's doing like an art thing on his podcast now, along with art. So he's a really talented artist as well.
that's
But
awesome.
yeah, I would love to team up with you and go out to some location. And even then, I might have a spot if you're interested when we go to Keysburg, Illinois, August 3rd.
Okay.
We're
What's
going to a Masonic lodge.
okay? That sounds interesting.
I'm going actually with Jamie Lynn Keller, that's sitting here.
Okay.
We've got 3 spots. I think I know one of them's definitely going. I don't know about the rest of the team yet, but there's only 3. Only 3 of us can go, But if it happens to open up, if you'd like to go with us on that time,
Yeah, I
that'd
would love.
definitely be a good one.
Thank you. Thank you so much for asking. I would love to. Just let me know when and where, and I'll be there.
Yeah, so that's definitely cool. Like I said, I'm sure the team would get a kick out of teaming up with you and experiencing some of the things that you've talked about and the knowledge that you've got as well. Like I said, I kind of wanted to do that a while back, but it never got followed through with. So things are a little different now. So I'd really like to do that eventually. Kind of team up with you and even maybe go to some of the locations you've got written in your book.
Okay, I'd be happy to show them to you. I would be happy to show them to you because there are some really great places. There are some great places I know that we can get in and do investigations. They would allow us to do that. So,
That'd be definitely cool. But like I said, we could go live and etc. and do a whole investigation and see what we come up with.
yeah, yeah, that would be amazing. That would be
And
fun.
maybe you can take out your crystal balls and you can scry.
Maybe.
You scry and I scry and see what happens.
See what happens. Usually, though, whenever I go into a place, like how we were talking about energy earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
most places that are haunted, let's face it, they do have a portal. I am so good at like walking in and finding it.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can definitely feel the energy off certain things. I will
Yeah.
definitely agree with you on that.
So
Um,
I have to help you find your portals.
but yeah, that's definitely a cool thing. I'm actually trying to find this picture here real quick, and I'm going to send it to you when we were down in Galena. I just sent them to you on your messenger there real quick. That's when I was scrying and paranormal exposure was talking about that I looked older in that picture when I was scrying.
Okay. I'm like, what if I X off of here and like it leaves the whole and it leaves the whole chat.
Yeah, that's what happened when Aaron did it. Just like, ding, it's like the whole thing just kind of disappeared. So,
I'll
but
look
yeah,
at it if I don't do that. Is
okay.
it in? Oh,
Yeah, I sent it in your messenger.
no. Okay.
I mean, I could send it in your email as well if you want.
I'll
So,
I'll get it in my messenger.
so, oh, where'd she go? She disappeared. Maybe she'll come back in here. There she goes.
Sorry. See?
I was like, she just disappeared. Uh, it's it's all good. You can check it out. Just stay backstage here when we get. I'll close out the show and we'll talk for a little bit here. But
Okay.
anyway, I really appreciate you coming on the show and thank you for coming on. And I'm looking forward to teaming up with you here in the future as well. It should be very interesting.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
And
So,
like I said, if there's anything you'd like to throw out there real quick and promote, go for it.
my book is called Spoon River Paranormal by Jacqueline J. Bainter. It's on Amazon. We talk about a lot of haunted locations in the central Illinois area. If you're from central Illinois, you've probably heard of them. So if you'd like to read more about it, check it out on Amazon. Spoon River Paranormal. So.
Okay. All righty. Like I said, stay backstage here for a few minutes and I'm going to close out the show. And thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
All right. See you in a few minutes here. All right, everybody. That was Jacki Bainter. She is a really good author and illustrator, and she does a lot of paranormal stuff, does actressing, and does some publishing of poetry and etc. She does a really amazing job, and check out her stuff. She does some really cool stuff. And hopefully, here in the future, before summer, maybe we can team up and we'll all see her live with the Eternal X Wolfpack Paranormal team as well. So, everybody have a great weekend, and I will see you next Sunday when we have Lady Victoria Darkwood. She'll be coming on from Paranormal Happy Hour, and she will be our guest next Sunday. So we'll be looking forward to meeting her. So have a great weekend, guys, and stay safe, and have a great Memorial Day as well tomorrow. Out of here.